Jamsters, what's going on? It's your host, John Voida, managing editor, Bright Side of the Sun, coming to you live after another Suns loss. That is 5 consecutive losses for your Phoenix Suns. They are now 9-7 on the season. Yes, the team that started 8-1 is 9-7. For those watching, you probably see that I'm not on screen because I'm driving home from the game. Matthew will join us in a little bit, but both of us were at the game tonight. An opportunity to see the Knicks come to town, their only trip to Phoenix, and they got their butts kicked, man. I mean, we're all feeling it as Suns fans, right? We're all feeling this anxiety and this wanting just to get off the schneid. And your hope, your expectation is that, especially at home, this team would have the ability to take care of business, to come out and show some fight, some fire. And I don't know if it's tough. It's tough to say that they didn't necessarily do that. Okay, it's not tough. They fucking didn't. But New York started so unbelievably hot in this game. 10 of their first 11, 5 of 5 from downtown to start. Like before the first timeout was done, yeah, they were down. You know, it seemed like they came off the gate down 20. Now, part of that you can talk about effort on defense, and I'm sure that's what a lot of the conversation is going to continue to be about as it pertains to this team. Is their ability to execute on the defensive end, to showcase effort. And that's one of the challenges I feel that this Phoenix Suns team has. And this isn't necessarily a result of a lack of Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal. And yes, the team was without both of those guys again. Was it 7 missed games now for Kevin Durant and 6 for Durant or for Beal? It's $101 million in payroll, just kicking it on the bench. And that's primarily those guys, they're offensive players. Now, granted, Bradley Beal has put forth for early in the season that has been noticed, but in the same breath, the defense is something that can generate offense. And even when you have players like Royce O'Neal and Ryan Dunn starting, your 3-and-D wings, the hope and the expectation is that they could have some semblance of defense that can lead to offense. But this team appears to be a little too offensively minded, and rather than Coach Budenholzer pulling those guys together, pulling them aside and saying, listen, we need to focus on the defensive end. The offense will come because of the systems that Budenholzer is putting in place. But their defensive spacing, their rotations, it's the first thing that I noticed in the first quarter was seeing how poor they were, especially rotating. To the Knicks' credit, they shot the lights out, partially because they had some open looks, but they hit difficult shots too. I swear, Jalen Brunson, this guy, and I don't have the stats in front of me because I am driving. I can see the chat, so thank you for everyone who is hanging out with us here and watching along live. But Jalen Brunson, man, somebody's got to tell me how many points he ended up with, but that guy fucking owns the Suns in our own arena. Owns us. That guy couldn't miss anything. He was at one point, I think he was 5 of 5 from beyond the arc. I'm like, yeah, it's just like effortless. Doesn't need to try. There's some switch that he flipped when he was a member of the Dallas Mavericks in that Game 7, or that entire series, to be honest, a couple years back, and he hasn't gone back when he plays against the Suns. He continually eviscerates Phoenix when he's at the Footprint Center. And there's something valuable that I learned in watching Jalen Brunson tonight. And I think this is something that players in the NBA should focus in on And if they have the ability to do so, make happen moving forward. Get yourself some braids like Jalen Brunson, man. Because when you have braids like Jalen Brunson, whenever he kind of does the head bob thing, those things fly everywhere looking like Predator, and he gets the calls. You know, Mark Davis was giving him calls where he's generating contact into a player, but because he bobs his head, the only thing that you really see is his dreads predatoring in the wind, and the whistle gets blown. So that's my advice. Like Devin Booker, grow your hair out as much as you can, braid that shit, man. Get those dreads flying every time you have an opportunity to do so. Get to the line that way. And who knows? Maybe you can pad the stats just like good old Jalen Brunson there. But again, losing tonight, I know that you're frustrated. I know that I'm frustrated. I know that I also didn't expect to win this game. I had a buddy of mine text me before the game, and he showed me something on FanDuel, and it was like a plus 250. Booker goes for 20 points, and the Suns wins. And he goes, what are your thoughts, man? You think they can do this? I'm like, nope. He goes, well, why not? Well, they're not going to win this game, man. Well, but why not? Well, they got $100 million of payroll out. Yeah, but like they're due, right? Like the Knicks are streaking, as are the Suns, both in different directions. The Knicks are winning games. The Suns are losing games. Something's got to give, right? I go, yeah, but it ain't tonight. And it's hit this point, and I've talked about it a little bit on previous podcasts, but Devin Booker's tired. There was a period in the middle of the second quarter where he simply just looked gassed out there. He's trying as hard as he can on offense. He can't get the shot that he wants. He gives up on defense on a play, and a member of his team makes a steal, and they run a possession again, and then he ends up shooting 27-footer, and he has no legs because he's gassed, because he's been trying to carry this team, and he's been doing it unsuccessfully, which hurts even more. And you ask yourself, well, why? Why is he doing it unsuccessfully? Why is Devin Booker going for 33 points and the team is losing? Because the assets around him are just inconsistent right now. Royce O'Neal finally snapped out of his funk. He had 5 3-pointers in this game. But it was Grayson Allen's turn to go, 1 of 8 from beyond the arc? There's an inconsistency with these players who are being asked to step up to fill such a massive chasm being vacated by Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal that it feels somewhat unrecoverable. And that's what I'm leaving tonight wondering to myself. Am I duped once again by the roster construction created by James Jones this offseason? I think back to, and I see you, Creepy Crawly, we need a defensive coach. Fuck that. We had a defensive coach last year. Frank Vogel didn't do shit. But I think back to last season and before everything tipped off, and we did hire Frank Vogel, and we had Keita Bates-Diop and Chimezie Metu and Jordan Goodwin. Ooh, Jordan Goodwin, he was gonna lock everybody up, man. Welcome to Jordan Goodwin jail. Doesn't have a good ring to it now, does it? But you looked at what they had and you go, you know what? These are great ancillary pieces to put around Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal. These are pieces that are going to seize the opportunity set before them, knowing that if they play well, a bigger bag lies ahead of them in their career. They're going to have plenty of nationally televised TV. Well, that's what televised, isn't it? Nationally televised games to perform on. The stage will be theirs. And those players all crumbled. So this year, we addressed our point guard depth issues. We re-signed Grayson Allen. We re-signed Royce O'Neal. We have these three-point shooters. But the depth isn't coming through. And I guess, considering that you're missing 38 minutes of Durant, 31 minutes of Beal, and these guys are having to step up and play extended minutes in a role that they're not necessarily designed to do, it can be an excuse. But champions adjust. These players should adjust to the fact that, hey, next man up mentality, right? All right, we're hurt. We've been hurt. I have to step up. I have to be the guy, and we need to do this night in and night out. Because other teams in the NBA have the ability to do it, but the Suns aren't doing it right now. And that's the frustrating part. And in the process, Devin Booker's getting more and more tired, and that scares me. Because I know that it's just a matter of time before Devin Booker, out of pure frustration, overexerts himself. And in some capacity, pulls a hamstring, twists an ankle. Some of those issues that he's had in the past could rear their ugly head again. And you wonder if part of the reason why Devin Booker's been inconsistent this season is because he's not trying to overexert himself. That he has a level of maturity as a player to go, you know what? I recognize what this is right now. I recognize that Kevin Durant is out. I recognize that Bradley Beal is out. I recognize that I am the clear and utter focal point of opposing defenses. And I need to play within my means and not try to overexert myself because I can, and I know my body, and I know I've injured my body in the past. It's a conversation to have, because Booker potentially is doing something that a lot of fans aren't doing right now because we're emotional about this. And that is, he is seeing the big picture. He is seeing the fact that this is, as frustrating as it is, it's November 20th. And there's plenty of basketball that lies before us. We haven't even hit the 20-game mark of this season. There is a ton of basketball. And unfortunately, the deck is stacked against the Suns, and all they can do right now is play their hand. And you can't fold. You can't fold in NBA games. So you just go out there, you play, you try to give it a good effort, but Coach Bud could be in the pregame, locker room talking to the team, be like, listen, guys, play random, play hard, but don't play too hard. Don't hurt yourself. There's only a few of you guys left, and we need to get to today. And today is an important day because the Suns have the next 6 days off. I would love to meet the motherfucker who made the schedule, because it doesn't make any fucking sense to me thus far this season. The team had a back-to-back to start this week in Minnesota, albeit a day game, but in Minnesota, and then had to fly back to Phoenix to have the first game of a 6-game homestand. They play that game. They have a night off. They play tonight. And then they have 6 nights off. Like 6. Like the scheduler thought Thanksgiving was this Thursday, and then they're, hey, Bob, that's incorrect. And he's like, well, fuck it. And so they play again next Tuesday, and then they play on Wednesday again. They come back after 6 nights off to a back-to-back. But what's important about this time off is that when they said Kevin Durant will be reevaluated in 2 weeks for a calf strain, which is something you always have to navigate with caution as it pertains to Kevin Durant due to his Achilles injury. They looked at the schedule and go, hey, there's a nice little gap in there where we can get right. And the same thing with Bradley Beal, also a calf. Hey, man, if we could just get through that Knicks game on Wednesday the 20th, we got 6 days off. You guys can come back and play. Hopefully, you'll be healthy enough to play once again. Yeah, Mark N says it right in the chat. 7 games in 10 nights, 6 days off. NBA does not care about quality. No fucking shit there. So now you have an opportunity to let these guys heal. And based on a report from Shams Charania earlier today, Kevin Durant will return next week. They don't know if it'll be the NBA Cup game on Tuesday at home against the Lakers, or if it will be the following night, also at home, but against the Brooklyn Nets. And as I was walking back to my car, I did see a tweet come up, and I don't know the validity of it, but somebody tweeted that Bradley Beal stated he'll be back on Tuesday. And then we are on the other side of this, Suns fans, at least at least for now. But we'll be on the other side of it. Because for as frustrating as last season's basketball team was to watch, and Lord knows they were tough to watch. The peaks and the valleys, the inconsistency, the lack of an identity. That was a frustrating basketball team to watch last year. You know what they didn't do? They never lost 5 consecutive games, as this team has. They never lost 4 consecutive games last season, as obviously this team has. Now, the hope is consistency comes back into play, that the 8-1 Suns that open this season, when healthy, returns next week and we start to stack wins. That the 8-1 start was enough of a buffer to survive any potential injuries that might occur early in the season, which, true to form, they have. Because if not, this season, and I know this fan base will take a dark turn. It's funny talking to the media guys about the state of the fan base because they're all feeling it too. We're all up there covering the team, but we care about this team. We follow everything, and we're all looking at each other just like, what the fuck is going on with the Suns? But we all know the same, it's all the same answer. You can't get too crazy about it right now because they're just not healthy enough. And we're thankful because we're not dealing with any of those long-term issues that other teams across the NBA are dealing with. Imagine being a Philadelphia 76ers fan right now. 2-12, and Paul George hyperextended his knee again tonight. They don't know when he's coming back. They don't know when Zion's coming back. They don't know when Ja Morant's hip issue. There's a lot worse places to be in than 9-7 with Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal still on your roster, just not available right now. And so, like my good friend So Says Jay, Justin from the Fanning the Flames podcast always says, positive vibes only. I know it's tough, and I know that I'm not always the beacon for that mode of thinking. Just go listen to Sunday's podcast after we lost to the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'm an emotional fan too. I am a fan in every capacity of the word. I'm blessed because I get to cover the team the way I do by managing Bright Side of the Sun and having this podcast where you guys listen. And my assumption is the reason that you read what I write or you listen to what I say is because there's a genuinity that occurs because I am a fan who feels the same feelings you're feeling and articulates them sometimes. And if you trust me in that capacity, trust me that for now, it's going to be okay. What is the Dark Knight's famous quote? Like, the night is always darkest before the dawn. Tonight, it was the darkest, okay? The dawn is over the next 6 days. And I think that we all need a break from the Suns, right? Like, I know that the NBA schedulers are fucking morons, but we all needed a break from this team. The next 6 days, like, go walk your dog. Go take a hike. Go rake the rocks in your front yard just for 4 hours. If your wife's like, what are you doing? You're like, therapy. I'm vetting the Suns from my system because it's with only 16 games into the season, it's already been a hell of a roller coaster. That's for damn sure. And there's so much more that lies ahead. So, as Tupac Shakur once said, keep your head up. It's going to be all right. Looking back on this game, yeah, there's some issues. Defensively, the effort, I just didn't necessarily see it. credit New York for their quality shot making and the fact that they're gelling as the team that they thought they were going to be, and people on their team like Mikal Bridges are falling into their role and understanding what it is. But like the defensive aspects of this Suns team is something that needs to be addressed, but we don't know how to address it at this point because this team is not whole. You know, I mean, you can't start to go, well, this needs to be better. If only so and so could do X better, right? If only Royce O'Neal could shoot threes better. Well, he did tonight. If only Grayson Allen could also shoot threes better when Royce O'Neal is shooting threes better. Well, those guys are both supposed to be playing against second team defenses coming off the bench with either Kevin Durant or Devin Booker or Bradley Beal out there to generate floor spacing to open them up for their shots. But that's not occurring right now because only Devin Booker can create enough gravity to pull anyone off of him. So it's hard to ask for somebody to execute in an offense that doesn't exist at this point. And it's hard to analyze what can make them better. So a couple fun stories that I'll share while I'm driving home. And again, if you're watching along live, appreciate it. If you're on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. If you're listening, subscribe, rate, review, all that fun shit. So let's see, two stories. Story number one. Yesterday, I was watching the Celtics and the Cavs. Good game, but I happened to tune in about the second quarter, and I watched it probably about a quarter and a half. I got to halftime. I got midway through the third, and at that point, it just looked like the Celtics were going to blow the fucking lid off of the game, and I'm like, this is fucking boring. Unless you're a Celtics fan, this is fucking boring. So I tuned it to NBA TV, and what do I find? I find a game from 2006. It's the double overtime game in New Jersey against Jason Kidd and the Nets. The game that the Suns win 161 to 157. And I watched like the whole fourth quarter and both overtimes of that game. And I got to say, man, those teams were fucking fun. Obviously, they didn't shoot the three-point ball with the frequency that modern day teams do, but they shot it enough, and that team was entertaining. And seeing Steve Nash pass out of so many situations where he could have just been a marksman, it reminded you of how great he could have been as a three-point shooter. And Boris Diaw, man, it was fun watching Boris Diaw play the four and just pass. And I gotta say, Oso Ighodaro reminds me of a young Boris Diaw. The way he can get down into the paint and pass appropriately and make good basketball decisions. I felt like I was watching a, 18 years ago version of Oso Ighodaro. Now, obviously, Boris could shoot the ball. There was no push shots involved. But the way that he could navigate, find his fellow teammates, Oso Ighodaro, if he continues to develop, it can become like a solid four on this team, like a starting four. Imagine what a slam dunk that would be for this team. Now, that being said, I switched back over to the Celtics game, and it was 107 to 100. I had a couple buddies texting me like, hey, you got to watch this. But by that time, I'd already committed to my wife that we were going to go ahead and walk the dogs. And so I paused the game, walked the dogs, came back. My daughter turned the TV off, something she's never done in her life. But she turned it off, and I missed the end of that game. Story number two, tonight at the game, I get there early, hang around, shoot around. I like to sit down on the opposing shoot-around area just because I've seen every one of the Suns take shoot-around. And the only thing that's ever exciting to me is when Devin Booker comes out to see what kind of shoes he has on, which, by the way, the book ones Devin Booker was wearing tonight. Fucking love those. Those are the All-Star Game 95 book ones with the purple and the green and the orange and the black, and they just look so nice. But I sat down over on the Knicks side, and I was sitting right next to Cam Payne's parents the whole time. And I thought that was really cool. Seeing them interact with Cam Payne. He was coming over saying hi. Him and Mikal were saying hi. I got a great picture that I posted on Twitter of him and Tom Leander. Mikal, Cam, and Tom Leander, they were just cracking up. It's a homecoming for those guys. And it was really fun to just kind of see and talk a little bit with his parents about what it's like living in New York and going to his games there. But, he still has a home here, and they love coming back here. And it's unfortunate that he plays for the Knicks because they only come back to Phoenix once a year. And, seeing Cam Payne, seeing Mikal, you will always have that connectivity to them because of what we experienced with them with the Suns in that finals run. because they were so much of that personality and who that team was and what that team was about. Before games, during games, after games, Mikhail and Cam were just the goofballs that we all loved and endeared ourselves to. And so when you come and you see them play for an opposing team, it's a little nostalgic. And it might just be a few years ago, but the nostalgia was definitely heavy seeing them play. All right, a couple more things before we get out of here. I guess we'll go ahead and we'll hand out a little hardware. Let's see who the Jam Star is.
Jam Star of the Game.
Again, Jamsters, let me know in the chat who your Jam Star of the Game is. For me, there's no doubt it was Devin Booker. It had to be Devin Booker in this one. 33 points, playing through frustration, tough shot making, only 2 threes. I know because one of my buddies needed 3 threes from him. I'm like, well, that's a fucking dumb bet. Never bet on Devin Booker threes. You ever want some free betting advice? Never bet on Devin Booker threes. Ever. But he gets the Jam Star in this one. I don't think there's any doubt about it. As for programming, we will be picking back up next Tuesday when they play the Lakers. I will be at that game covering it on behalf of Brightside. So Matthew most likely will be running the show and have somebody join him on that podcast. But, for those of you who are watching along or listening, again, thank you for your support. It's going to be okay. It's game 16, homies. It's game 16. And the last thing I'll say before I get out of here is I couldn't help but notice that Karl Anthony Towns kind of runs like he's got to take a shit the whole game. Like, if you ever watch him run up and down the court, he just has that, like, oh, shit, I got something in my pants. You got to get rid of this load. Go home and love your family.